I have just finished a rereading of David Copperfield, one of the most beautiful books written by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens, as everyone knows, is somebody who is a synonym for the Victorian times. To say Victorian, to say bigger than life, is to say Dickensian. So, this is one of his autobiographical stories, we could say, a novel in which he has divested himself so fully that Dickens himself says that of all my works, David Copperfield is dearest to my heart. He says that over 2 years that he spent writing and living with those characters, on the day that he finished writing this extraordinary work of the English literary canon, he says that he felt as if a piece of his heart, as if a very piece of his soul was drifting away into a shadowy world. And at the same time, he felt overjoyed at the execution of something so magnificent, something so filled with love. This is a personal favorite for me, and I would say that every time that I read David Copperfield, I cry, I love, I feel, I love, and I feel yet again. We have already gone through a tale of two cities and great expectations in our channel. And this is also definitely something that you need to put on your reading list. David Copperfield is a work we could say in the mature period of Dickens. Dickens started writing as a very young man, and this work was written in his 37th year. This is a reflection about his own childhood, his upbringing, and Dickens himself had gone through the so called horrible Victorian times in which children were forced to work for a living. When his own father was in prison, he had to fend for his family. And all these experiences are poured into works like David Copperfield and Oliver Twist. So here I'm going to talk about two of the accusations that critics have and have had about Charles Dickens. One is sentimentality, and here the very defense that I would like to present about Dickens being called a sentimental writer is yes, he is sentimental. Oh, yes, he is very, very sentimental. If any man ever manipulated the English language in such a manner that every reader felt, and the little child who came to you asking for a piece of bread more became Oliver Twist in your eyes. The governors, the policemen, every person felt so badly when they saw a child pickpocket. If they saw an artful dodger, if they saw Charlie Bates, they felt, wasn't forgiveness needed? Wasn't kindness the need of the hour? And that was his magic. Yes, he intended to be a sentimentalist and he intended to manipulate you. He was so manipulative, and that is his defense. Another reason or another thing that people say about Dickens is why does everything feel exaggerated? Why does everything feel bigger than life? And here we can say that Dickens gives you the opportunity to look at his works through the eyes of a child. When you read Dickens, you need to wear your thinking cap. You need to wear your childhood's eyes. And when little children describe things, they see all the idiosyncrasies, be it the symbolism, be it those little things, whether it's a Mr. Macabre, the way he walks, the way he talks, or the lovely nurse, Peggotty, the ever loving, kind character in David Copperfield, the way a child sees a safe space. And the moment that he meets something so grotesque and gross as an Uriah heap, how the child instinctively feels evil standing in front of him, and all the idiosyncrasies of speech, of language, all that is described through the eyes of a child. And Charles Dickens, we can say, retained this ability to look at something in the through the eyes of a child. And as we grow older, we can say that we tend to not look at the idiosyncrasies or the eccentricities. We tend to, gloss over that part. And that is when we lose touch with the essence of life. And here he was bringing us back to it. When Dickens talks about a teacher like Mr. Creakle, even though Mr. Creakle pretends to be a very good man in front of Steerforth or in front of a rich person, the child, David Copperfield, can see him for what he is. Children can never be fooled. And at the same time, a patchy coat worn by a Mr. Mell still does not make him a bad man, for a child sees the kindness in him. About David Copperfield, we can say this is a book that inspired great writers, even like Tolstoy. Tolstoy says that David Copperfield is my favorite work of Dickens, and he says that this work inspired him to write his own autobiography called Boyhood, Youth, and Childhood. So, this is a work definitely to be put on your list. Dickens stands for Victorian times when England was ruling three-quarters of the world, when the English Empire was so great and well known. There was someone remaining in the background. That was the voiceless poor. The poor people of London, voiceless. Nobody saw them. Nobody saw their severe conditions. So, how the children were working in mines and in factories, blacking shoes, making do with nothing at all, starving literally. And these people at that period got a champion, and that was Dickens. He spoke for the unseen poor. He spoke for those people who were in drudgery, toiling every day for a single meal. And while the empire was boasting about its greatness, while there was economic and industrial revolution happening on one side, Dickens brought out Oliver Twist and David Copperfield and Little Nell and Scrooge, and he brought back the spirit of Christmas, and he brought back the spirit of goodness, telling the Englishman to remain a gentleman, to look toward the poor. In this work, one of the most beautiful statements is how Agnes, when she walks down the staircase after seeing Dora, she points upward to David. And I see, as a reader, we too feel that through David Copperfield, Dickens is constantly pointing upwards, telling us all to be a better version of ourselves. So, this is on your reading list.